y'all, it's Jessica from Sloppy Swatches. Today I have a look at the intriguing collection for winter 2020 that's available right now from Zoya. There are quite a few polishes in this collection, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in with the first one, and this is NICO, and she's described as a celadon toned pearl with a touch of silver shimmer blended in. So this shows up very gold for me in person. It is one that I think, in my opinion, is going to look best at 3 coats. However, just with this first coat, it does have a nice amount of coverage, and you do get those gorgeous gold flecks that are really going to play in different lighting sources. So for me, I do prefer this polish at 3 coats. It's going to look like a gold silk dress on the nails. Very beautiful. 2 coats, you can see, builds it up a little bit there, but I do still have some visible nail lines. So I'm going to let that dry down and then show you what it looks like with that third and final coat. So even for these coats, I did go in a little bit thicker, and I do still have maybe a tiny flash of visible nail line depending on the angles that my nails are in, but I don't mind it at all for this finish. So here is a look at that completed mani at 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath the artificial lighting. And even with those gold flecks there, you're not going to get a ton of texture at all. So next up is Eunice, and she's described as a chartreuse metallic green. So I can see this one being a little bit captivating depending on where you fall on the pretty ugly colors. I love it. So here is a look at that first easy coat. I did go in a little bit thicker here than I had intended, but I didn't have any problems with it pooling or flooding my cuticles at all. It goes exactly where I put it and stay. So that first coat, fairly thick, is almost complete coverage. I am going to go ahead and go in for a quick second coat because that's how I would usually apply these anyways. You do need to watch out a little bit for drippage down the stem. I do get sometimes a little bit more product than I intend to, so just watch out for that. But here is a look at that completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat, living for the shimmer with this color combination. Next up is Regina, and I feel like this is definitely going to be a fan favorite. So she is described as an alluring dark emerald green metallic. So this is very much a jewel-toned green shade. The formula was a little bit surprising for me. I assumed it would be maybe a little bit more pigmented than it does go on. It almost has a little bit of a jelly feel to it with those metallic gold shimmers running throughout. However, maybe that makes it less liable to stain, and it does build up really well on itself, so no complaints at all. So here's a look at a second coat, getting a little bit closer to that sidewall there. 2 coats is all you're going to need for this one to be completely opaque. It is gorgeous on the nails, looks great for winter as we get into that Christmas season, and just really all year round. I'm really impressed with it. I am going to go ahead and do a quick third coat just to kind of even out and get it a little bit closer to my sidewall. So depending on your application, you may need 2 or 3 coats, especially if you go in a little bit thinner. But here is a look at that completed mani at 3 coats before a glossy top coat. This one would be beautiful matte as well. Now that is my final swatch photo underneath my artificial ring lighting. So next up is Meredith, and she is described as a twinkling midnight sapphire blue with an icy light blue shimmer. So this is kind of unlike any other navy or dark deep blue that I have in my collection from Zoya. This one goes on like a dream, really smooth and really easy to work with. Even at that first coat, you can see I already have a ton of that gorgeous blue shimmer, those sparklies running throughout. However, it's not completely opaque, so I'm going to let this dry down and then show you how it built up for me with a quick second coat. So 2 coats is going to bring this to full coverage. Again, deep, icy, dark blue shade. Looks gorgeous on the nails. I have no complaints at this one at all. It does dry down a little bit dull, so to keep it looking super glossy, you may want to go in with your favorite glossy top coat. But here is a look at that completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath that artificial ring lighting. And then this is my final swatch photo. So next up is NISHA, and she is a little bit of an enigma. So this is described as a deep royal blue violet metallic. So very much a blurple shade. It's almost what I would classify as a duochrome, because depending under what lighting or what angle, it's going to appear more blue in some lights or more purple in others. Really, really stunning. So there is a look at that first easy coat. This one is described as a 5 in terms of intensity on Zoya's scale. I think with a thicker first coat, you could definitely get away with 1. I am going to go ahead and clean up my edges and get it just a little bit deeper here with this second coat. So it's all going to depend on your application method, but I was really happy with the finish at just 2 coats. Look how deep and inky that is. That's so pretty. So this is my completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath that artificial ring lighting. So next up is one of my favorites, and I can't help it. It's because it's red. So this is KOLEY, and she is described as being a pink, really. So KOLEY is described as a ruby pink metallic. So very strong pink notes in this red. or red notes in this pink, depending on how you look at it. I did go in a little bit thicker here than I had intended, but one coat pretty much completely opaque. I am going to go ahead and try to get a little bit closer to my sidewalls there. So 2 coats is my preferred depthness of application, and I was really happy. It doesn't dry down with brush strokes at all, really. Look how pretty. So this is 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial ring lighting. So next up is the true red cream of the collection. This is SOKO, and she's described as being a wintry poinsettia red. So you guys know that I am forever a stan of red cream polishes from Zoya. This one is, I think, a little bit more orange based than blue. I tend to gravitate towards the more blue tone ones. However, this one is bright and gorgeous and everything you need to get you through the winter season. This one went directly on my toes and has been there. Super in love with it for that. So this is going to be completely opaque in 1 to 2 coats, depending on your application method. Here, I really could have gotten away with just one. However, I wanted to get it a little bit closer to my sidewalls there. And just for consistency's sake, I did go in for that second. It does dry down fairly glossy. So here is a look at that completed mani. At 2 coats, I will never be over a Zoya red. However, if you already have one in your collection that you love, you may not need this one. So next up is Beverly, and we're going to deepen it up a little bit here. So she is described as a dark purple toned red cream. So this is getting into the more burgundy feel. Just with that first swipe, you can see the coverage and pigmentation on this polish is beautiful. One careful, even coat, I think, is enough to get you through, especially if you have shorter nails or you don't have as much visible nail line. I am going to go ahead and do a quick second coat here, just honestly for consistency's sake and to get a little bit closer to my sidewalls. So it's going to be 1 to 2 coats, again, depending on your application method, which is totally typical for a Zoya cream polish. This one is very classy, and I can't be mad at it. So here's a look at that completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial ring lighting. And then this is my final swatch photo of Beverly. So next up we have Avi, or Avi maybe, and this one is described as being a smoky grayish cream with a hint of a red brown. So this is definitely more of like a cool toned purple shade. It's a little bit like grungy, a little bit more muted, so I think it's perfect for fall and into winter and maybe all the way into spring as well for a little pop of color. I think this is going to look great as almost like a neutral shade. I can see so much going with this. So again, typical Zoya cream, 1 to 2 coats depending on your application method. I did go in a little bit thinner there with that first coat and then had some issue getting to my sidewall on camera, but 1 to 2 coats is going to be all you need for this one. It's not a standout favorite for me, but I do think it would make a great staple. So here is a look at that completed mani. It is showing up a little bit darker here under my ring lighting than it is in person. And then this is my final swatch photo. So next up we have a Brett, and she is described as a deep charcoal indigo cream. This shade gave me a little bit of apprehension in the bottle because it is such a deep blue. Even though it's muted, I was worried about staining. I didn't have any, but I do, of course, swatch with my favorite base coat, which is the Cutica Strengthening Base Coat from Zoya. I went in a little bit thicker here, but you can see even with that thick coat, it evens out really well. It doesn't pull at all, and it does still dry down fairly quickly. So 1 to 2 coats. I am going to stop here with this first coat because that's really all I needed. So here's a look at Brett at just 1 coat before a glossy top coat underneath artificial lighting. Super stunner and a winner for sure. So next up, I think, is my most anticipated of the collection, and this is Isti, and this is the only new pixie dust that Zoya has given us for winter 2020. I'm a huge fan of pixie dust. I love the texture. I love what it looks like on the nails. So this one is described as being a wintry steel blue, and it has the pixie dust with a pop of brilliant royal blue for vibrancy, and then that texture, of course. So here's a look at that first easy coat. These do take a little bit longer to dry down to their full matte finish. So give it a little bit of time and then go in with that quick second coat. This one, I still had a little bit of visible nail line at 2 coats. I did kind of spot check it off camera and stopped. However, I do think that really for full coverage, especially if you have longer nails or a very strong visible nail line, you will want to go ahead and take the time to go in for that third and final coat. The finish is beautiful. I think it's very classy. Lots of steel gray and blues popping through, very wintry on the nail. So the last polish of this collection is a Lottie, and she's described as a soft champagne pearl with a hint of glistening shimmer blended in. So Lottie and the other gold shade have a lot of the similar same notes. However, the texture is a little bit different. This one hits me a little bit more like a softer well, like they say, champagne gold, a little bit softer in notes. It could definitely go with the silver as well. It is a little bit more sheer as well on the nail here at that first easy coat. However, the finish is really beautiful. Again, kind of like that silky satiny feel. 2 coats is going to deepen the shimmer and add a little bit more coverage. It's not completely opaque though, so I'm going to go ahead and complete this coat and then show you what it builds up with a third and final coat. 3 coats is not going to hide any visible nail line, and if you wanted to, I could totally see this one being utilized as a topper as well, depending on what you're going for. However, 3 coats is brilliantly shiny. It has a lot of interest to the nail, and a nice clean finish. So here's a look at that completed mani of 3 coats of Lottie before a glossy top coat, and then this is my final swatch photo. So that does wrap up my swatch and review of the intriguing collection by Zoya for winter 2020. These are all available right now, and Zoya has been hosting some amazing sales, so be sure to check out that website. If I didn't say already, these were sent to me for review, so a big huge thank you to Zoya for sending these my way. If you'd like to see more, you can also follow me on Instagram at Sloppy Swatches. So thanks so much for watching, guys. See you next time.